Hello, good evening from my UK-based home kitchen. I'm Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate cake decorating easily. Ignore what's happening here, okay? We do serious baking over here, except this evening I am here to talk about a quick bake we undertook earlier, okay? We're going to be quick because the people in my house are sleeping. I'm obsessed about cakes. People want to sleep, and it's nearly it's 2:09. I want to tell you all the behind the scenes, but you didn't come for that. Let's jump right in, okay? So just a quick summary of what had happened earlier. In baking, my good friend Tapita is over there. Tapita, hello. I told you I'll be back, so I am. Ignore all the tassels on my head. I put my scarf away and here we are. So anyway, if you see me for the first time, I'm Gladys. I love baking. I am a baker, cake decorator. I enjoy the decorating arty aspect of cake making. Make some amazing cakes, even if I say so myself. But I also love the science of baking, which is what makes a really, really good cake. And we have just started a series that says, thank you, Tapita. We've just started a series that literally informs us about a few things concerning baking. If you're a beginner baker who is just getting into baking, I'm sure you will follow a few tips and very, very useful information and recommendations that are made for you by professionals, some of which include do use room temperature ingredients. Make sure you measure your ingredient. There are, like, baking is precision cooking, so there are specific things you have to do to optimize for your best results. And one of those tips also includes not overmixing your cake batter. And in this case, I have to emphasize the batter I'm emphasizing is batter, BATTER, and not batter, the block fat that is used in baking. Obviously, when you put all the ingredients together, you derive a batter. So the tip here, or the recommendation, is normally to not over mix your batter, right? But do we even understand what that means? Do we know why that happens? I think if you research, especially on the internet, there's a ton of information to inform you why that is. And it's primarily because of the gluten that is used in baking. Wheat flour, which contains a large amount of gluten, primarily gluten is found in many other places, but primarily you find it in wheat flour, which is also a source of flour for baking. So the main ingredient for cake, that is, if you're baking gluten focused cakes, you are probably using wheat flour. And in that case, gluten is made up of two types of proteins that, when activated with introduction of liquids, they begin to bind. And in baking, it can cause a very complex reaction and process in the science of baking. I am no scientist. I've just baked a long time to understand what gluten does, but that's an oversimplification of the idea. So the tip always to get you to get a good delicate crumb to your cake is to make sure that you don't overmix your batter, especially when you have your flour in it, because by overmixing it, you are agitating the gluten and you might end up with a tougher bake. So of course, most of us have gone through our baking processes trying our hardest to not overmix our batter. But the question is, do we even know what overmixing looks like? So I'm so sorry. I literally had to dash down here after gobbling down my dinner like a fool, because I didn't want to be late and I didn't want to disappoint. So bear with me. I literally have just finished dinner and shown up here. So essentially, if you're watching this, the idea was to sort of break some baking rules. That's what I did. We are breaking some baking rules just so that we can have a look into what it looks like when we bake. I can't speak. Anyway, let's go ahead. So we want to see what it looks like when we break some of the baking rules. And in this case, we are told to not overmix our batter, but I decided to overmix it anyway. So a quick summary of what happened. I have a recipe that is tested over here time and again, flipped over. I've used different types of flour. It's a solid recipe. And it's also accessible. So that is going to be our reference point, because we didn't want to source a new recipe that we didn't know about it. Thankfully, this particular recipe is developed by myself, that I have adapted. It's a solid recipe for a beginner. It's on the channel, long form and on a live. I discuss it in so many forms. Every time I've come to bake a vanilla cake, you're sure it is that recipe. With that in mind, we took that recipe as a reference point, split it into two so we can have half the quantity, and then we use the exact same ingredient. In fact, that recipe is so adaptable. It doesn't matter what you do with it in terms, you can switch some ingredients around and you will still get some great results. So essentially, I picked a recipe that you couldn't go wrong with. And then the only thing I did wrong was to overmix the batter when everything is done. You want to see that video just before this one. I know the title of that video is like how to make buttercream. That's my default setting when I log back into my lives. So I'll go and optimize the information for your best results. But if you're just checking this back on replay, check that video. You'll see me bake through the process. We caught up. We had a lot of fun, because one of the reasons why I do the lives is to actually bring you real-time experiences of the baking process. So if you see that video, you'll be able to see exactly what the process was like. But perhaps just to help you out, watch it at 2 times speed, because if you are not part of the live and you're watching it on replay, I just imagine it is completely dreary and boring, because it's like sitting in class, and nobody likes to sit in class. That out of the way, we mixed the butter, and I literally took a hand mixer, whipped it for 4 minutes. Now, for any baker, unless you're making bread, 4 minutes for mixing cake batter is just a no-no. But the idea was to kind of agitate the mixture and see what the result is like. We did get the result. The cake came out well. I was quite surprised. If you see that video, you'll see why I was very surprised. I was surprised because when you're told that the cake, don't overmix your batter, I was under the sort of ignorant impression that it was probably going to yield me a very tough looking cake. And I don't know why I thought that. So I learned something new. Turns out it doesn't yield you a tough, bad bake. What it actually does is that it just yields you a dense bake. But I will stop there and add that having done the bake and then we cut into it, you want to go catch up. There's a lot of information over there. Having done that video, I left trying to think through what had happened, because that's essentially the reason why we're doing this. The reason why we did this is to kind of see what overmixing cake batter looked like. And guess what? It was, when we first cut into it, you could see that the crumb of the cake was tight and a little dense, but it's not bread-like and it's not super doughy. It's still not delicate as a cake. So that led me to feel like the crumb of a cake sits on a spectrum. If you do things right, you get not a crumbly looking crumb. You get a well-structured crumb that can be even, is delicate, not super fluffy, because different recipes will yield you different cake types, right? But essentially what you're looking is, you want to see that there is a grain running through your cake crumb. And when you break it, you can feel some softness to it, but it's not too tight. And the difference is that when I baked this, initially when we cut into it straight away when it was hot, the cake looked really tight. It was dense, but because it was warm, it was still soft. And that is because the oils having settled in it, and the oil that we used was butter. That will matter. So essentially, the reason why I'm back tonight talking about this cake is that we wanted to see, we saw what it was like freshly baked, warm, and it was like, it's not bad. And then I wanted to come back when the cake is cold, as in when the crumb has settled and it's cool. And you know what? Now that it's set, it still looks it just looks like, it now looks a little doughy, if you like. It looks doughy. So if you were to build this cake into a layer cake with buttercream and everything else, you're going to get a very doughy cake. But it's not stodgy, and it's not heavy as I thought. And that still surprises me. The crumb is a little more dry than I would like it. But that is because I left it on the countertop and didn't cover it. Now that I'm looking closer at it, you know what? It still looks closer to what you will call a pound cake. Okay? So overmixing your batter, is it as bad as we think? I will hesitate to say no, it's not as bad. It is. I'll tell you why. It is because, obviously, looking at the quality of the crumb here, if you wanted to build it into a layer cake, you want to think twice if you're doing that, because then you're going to end up with a heavy cake. When the buttercream oil sort of seep into it, you're going to get a denser looking cake. And for me, mouthfeel and the eating experience of a cake is so important. So I don't know if I'll recommend that, but on the research aspect of this alone, I also did come to the sort of understanding of some reasons that might affect outcomes. So one of the things that have puzzled me was, as I said, I was expecting it to be very doughy and maybe near bread-like or tough, and yet I have a cake that is still slightly lighter. Did I say light? No. It's slightly dense. Look at the crumb here for me. It is slightly dense. Is it as dense as I expected it to be? No, I actually wanted it to be worse than this. And the reason is that there are a few different factors that improves the result here. In that, even though it's a sort of wheat flour we used, the fat content and liquids play a huge role in how complex the protein will develop and how tough they get, because the more they develop and get tighter, the more chewy or dense your cake will be. But one of the direct influencing factors to the development of gluten is liquids. And in our recipe, we had about, I think, 60 mils of buttermilk. Now, the key thing here is buttermilk. Buttermilk functions slightly differently from milk, okay? Because buttermilk is a cultured dairy that also has some acids in it. And the acid reacts with the rising agent in our flour. Notice that because I'm in the UK, I'm not using cake flour. If I was using cake flour, this whole experiment will fall to the ground, because the use of cake flour is really key to different results, whether you overmix or not. Because cake flour has a very low percentage of gluten, especially in America, where there is the bleached cake flour. Okay, so a low percentage of my brain has gone blank. Okay, my brain has gone blank. So yeah, if we were using cake flour, this whole thing would have gone left over here. We weren't using cake flour, we were using self-raising flour. And if you go back, thank you, Mike and Jennifer, hi there. Tapeta, oh, prawn cocktail, you're back, darling. How are you, darling? All of you in the chat, thank you. I am just focused on delivering the information so we can catch up a little bit, because the people in my house are sleeping and the boy has school in the morning, and I really don't want to spend more time than I need. But I'm sure I'll be back over the weekend, probably on Saturday. I don't know. Let me not promise, but I might come back on Saturday, because this has developed into some very exciting insights for me, and I'm just excited to kind of dig in over here. So I say that to say, if we were using cake flour, this would have been different completely. But because we're not using cake flour and we're using self-raising flour, we still have to bear in mind that self-raising flour or plain flour would have also yielded us different results. So to answer the key question for me, which is that Why is our cake a little bit cakey than I thought it would be? The simple reason would be perhaps the flour has a great impact here, and because there's not much liquid, which is liquid, there's not much. The quantity of liquid here, even though it plays a key role, is still not as greatly impactful. So after 4 minutes of mixing this recipe on the butter on high speed for 4 good minutes, the influencing factors for why we still have a dense looking sort of cake that still has a very healthy crumb here. It looks like the cake that you'll just sit and chew on with your cup of tea. There's nothing special to it. At least for my preference, I wouldn't want to put buttercream on this. I would rather prefer just cutting into this cake. So I have said on the previous live that it looks more like a pound cake, the cake where all the ingredients are thrown together. It bakes a little dense, you put a knife through, and it's more like a cake loaf. Okay, yeah, the sort of loaves you bake, this takes that form and structure in terms of the crumb quality and integrity here, and that is actually surprising to me. But then, like I said, the insights that I gained from that was that the use of the flour that we use plus the amount of liquid and fat sort of would have had a direct influence on the outcome we have here. Because supposing I had a lesser amount of fat, in which case we were using about, I think, can I remember, it's about 160 grams. And maybe not here, neither here nor there. I will optimize the description box with all those details for you to see. We had about 160 grams of butter, which is the butter I used. And then we had about 225 grams of granulated sugar. Then came in about 140 grams of eggs, I think, and then there was 60 mils of buttermilk, which was our liquid here, and then there was, I think, if I remember, it's 230 grams of self-raising flour. Don't quote me on these details. I will put that information in the description box for you. So with that said, if we had the fat a little less, I don't know if that would have made a great deal of impact on how dense this cake would have turned out. But also you have to remember the impact of fat in the baking process. When you add fat to in baking, what it does is it enhances structure, essentially depending on what method you employ to add the fat. Because remember, this is only one method of butter making, which is we use the creamy method. People use the reverse creaming, where they actually agitate the flour more by mixing oil into it. Now, by adding the oil, you are actually interfering with the gluten strands, which means that by the time, and then coating them, so you're covering the gluten strands with oils, and by the time you come to adding liquids to it, it slows down gluten production because they are coated in oil, and by so doing you end up with a more even bake. So I say that for what it is worth, that first of all, overmixing cake, as in the tip that everybody bangs around, don't overmix your cake batter, is actually set in good stead, but it is so oversimplified that sometimes we are too overly cautious. Because should you attempt to overmix your cake, your batter made with cake flour, perhaps not necessary, but it makes a great deal of difference if I was using cake flour, because of the low levels of gluten that is traceable in cake flour. But over here, I'm using self-raising flour, so it's kind of a little bit different to if I was using bread flour or plain flour. Okay, so should you go and overmix your cake batter? Definitely not, okay? But if you were making a regular cake using self-raising flour and something happened and you forgot, and instead of 30 seconds, you go for 1 minute, should you be greatly concerned? I'll leave that to your opinion over there. So that is just by the way. But I just came back to say, when the cake cooled down, it is a little more dry also. It is a little more dry and it looks a bit more crusty. And this cake has only been finished baking since, I think, just before 4 p.m. And it's 5 hours later. And it looks a little bit dry on observation, but it's still a cake you can eat with your cup of tea. Okay, so I say that for what it is worth, that if you're new to baking, okay, follow the rules, but sometimes there is room to make adjustments over here. I will come back and explain in proper detail why we had this result, or I might perhaps compile it in a podcast style just so that the information lands properly with you. But with that said, here is a full, like, I cut the cake into two. It baked at about 3 inches high, and then I sliced it into two. When it was warm, we saw that. So I'm gonna cut this again. Okay, so as I'm cutting into it, I can feel that the crust is really tough. Okay, now that's not what you want for your cake at all. And then, oh, okay. Right. Now, this is what we didn't see. Okay, there you go. You can see the crumb. It has more holes in it, and that's because the overmixing would have caused air pockets. Okay, and it kind of makes the crumb uneven. So this is the unevenness we see. I just want to show you what that looks like. Look. A good cake should have a tight looking crumb, and you can almost feel like, I don't know how to describe it, but if you've been on this channel, you would have seen me slice into a cake, because many a time I try to show that aspect of the baking process. So yeah. So there we are. And look at the other side too. Now that's not a great cake, is it? That's not great at all. So that said, let's look up. Look, it just, it takes the form of a soft biscuit, crusty on the outside, a little soft on the inside, making it a bit dense. And it's a bit chewy, but not chewy in the way bread is chewy. Imagine biting into a cookie where the cookie is crusty, because the back of the cake is crusty, and then you get the soft inside. So there's a contrast between the crust and the crumb, but it still tastes great. The flavors are coming through. Because I used butter, the flavor of the butter is in it. Aisha, have a good evening. We'll see you sometime when you get back, all right? Take care, my dear. I'm just checking in the chat who is in them. There's Jonathan. Jonathan, hi. Aisha asked me how my day was. I was busy banging on about cake. I couldn't tell you what my day. My day has been all right, actually. I am just waiting to get through this very quickly, so I can go finish my dinner, okay? That's what I'm doing. And I'm hoping that I don't stay here too long to wake my people up. There is Praful. Praful, hi there. Somebody new in the chat with us. Corkytail. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking now. But my point is, should you overmix your cake? Definitely not. Don't go overmixing your cake batter. Follow the rules. But if you do, following all the ingredients, if you end up using, say, self-raising flour and you forgot your cake mix butter for a minute instead of 40 seconds, the 20 seconds won't make a huge difference, because 4 minutes later, this is what we have, and it's still cake and it's still all right, and we're eating it. So that is neither here nor there. Cocktail, I think you're answering some questions on my behalf over there. Thank you. But if you can just, whoever is asking the question, if you can put the question back, I will answer it, because I'm going to stop talking now. Okay? I'm going to stop talking. Sim cools the outside whilst the inside cooks. But don't quote me. You need to auntie to chime in. Okay, you've got my attention. What were you asking? And yeah, what do you need me to say? Right. Cocktail. I'm not sure if the cup of water has the same outcome as a tray. Okay. Yeah, put the question. I suspect the question here is the water in the baking tray in the oven for when you're baking. What's the question? Put the pruffle. Basically, I am making brownies right now. The inside isn't cooking. The outside has begun to burn. Okay, pruffle, slow down and breathe. You're going to be all right, okay? I'm going to jump to the heart of the question, and then after that, I will ask after you, okay? How long has the brownie been in? Do you think it's met the baking time? And more importantly, what oven are you using? Are you using a convection oven? A convection is the one with the fan at the back and it blows air around. And the conventional oven is the oven that has the heat source situated sometimes just at the top, like you have a wire coil that is burning the heat down. It's more static, or it has the wire coil underneath or on the sides. Doesn't matter. Basically, a conventional oven doesn't have the fan, and that makes a difference. So which one are you using? A conventional oven or a convection oven? Because if you tell me, I will be able to advise you on what's happening. So what oven are you using? That matters. And the brownie you're baking, is it close to the bake time and it's burning and you don't know what to do? Or it is still baking, but you notice that the outside is burning and the inside isn't cooking? Okay, so you have a conventional oven with a coil at the top, and it's been cooking for 30 minutes at 180 degrees C. What is the baking recommendation for this brownie, Pruffle? What's the baking recommendation? Does it know the recipe you're using? Have you used it before? And when you've used it, what does the baking instructions say for the bake time? Because that will matter. Because sometimes when you derive a recipe from online, you can still make adjustments to it because each oven is different. Okay, and sometimes the details are not very clear in the description for you, because the baker sometimes, or the recipe developer, unless they are completely surrendered to the idea of just overwhelming you with information, sometimes small bits of information are lost. So it's at the top, has begun to burn, but when I took it out and put a toothpick in, it's liquid. The recipe said it should cook at 175 for 25 minutes. Okay, Pruffle. First of all, reduce the heat, okay? If your cake is, whatever you're baking is burning on the outside, it means that the cake cooks from the outside, no matter what the oven, because it cooks from the outside inside, okay? So if that is the case happening here, reduce your heating. The question I want to ask, what is the position of the brownie tray in direction to the heat source? Is it on the top tray where the distance between heat to the brownie is really close, or it's on the bottom tray where the heat is a little bit relative? Where is your brownie tray position? That will matter. But the first thing you have to do here is reduce the heat completely. So come down to about 100, and you are at 180 right now and it's burning. Turn yourself down to 170 for starters, and let me know. Source of heat is at, come on, get it away from the top, bring it down to the middle. Okay, reduce the why did I clap at you? Sorry. Okay, it's just because the problem is very straightforward. Baking is precision cooking using dry heat. So the closer your item is to the heat, the more quickly it will burn, even if the bake time is not up. So you want to make sure the direction of the heat source to the bake is relative and proportional in distance. If it's too close, the heat will just go directly, and then things will hurry on quicker than you need. So move it down to the middle tray. Okay, middle, right in the middle, maybe 2 spaces from the bottom. So when I say middle, it's not directly in the middle, but your heat source is at the top, so I'm talking middle. Okay, so gauge the middle and see where you are. Okay, right, the heat source is at the top. Okay, and the tray is in the middle. Okay, so reduce your heat source by 10 degrees. So turn your oven down to 160. And by the way, are you using a oven thermometer? Because if you're not using an oven thermometer, your oven might be running higher than you think. And that is true for conventional ovens. Conventional ovens, because the coil has to burn red. If you don't have an oven thermometer, you will never be sure how much. If you're using your dial, you're probably selling yourself short on that. So I would say reduce the heat by 10 degrees, okay, and go all the way up to 170 on the knob. Give or take, I would have suggested 165, because if the outside is already starting to burn, then we need to try and slow the cooking process down. Otherwise, by the time it gets to the middle, the outside is super crusty and burnt, and then we have an inside that is not great, right? But you have no oven thermometer. So you know what? Reduce it. Brownies are quite forgiving. So reduce your heat to about 160 for me over there. And then what you can, and I say 160 because 160 is sort of an average temperature that you can bake most things, okay? If you bake your cake at 160, it will take a long time, but depending on what butter you're using, it might just settle a little bit, but you'll be all right. So just turn the dial, and even if you turn it to 160, chances are you are running at 165 or 170, neither here nor there. So slow it down. Turn your oven down to 160. That's the first thing you should do. Because the outside is burning, right? Get a foil if you have a kitchen foil, not baking sheet, kitchen foil, this one. Do you have access to this? Just bring it to 160, because what we don't want to do, unless, anyway, if you brought it to 150, that is probably because you can tell how much of the outside is burning, right? But 160 is average heat, because then it's not baking too slow on the slow side, and it's not baking too warm on the warm side. So 160 is fair, I would say. If you have access to one of these, get the brownie out, because brownie is not cake. If cake was having this problem, it would be a whole different process to fixing it. But get one of these. You've run out of foil. Do you have a baking sheet or baking paper? As in, what do you call it? Parchment paper. Do you have parchment paper? You have baking sheet. Okay. Is it big enough? If it's big enough, you want to tear the size of the tin, okay? Maybe if you have enough, layer 2, one over the other. So you make 2 layers of that, and then wrap it around your pan. So let me see. If I was to do this for you, this is what I would do. Let me just, but mind you, baking parchment paper doesn't function the same as foil, because foil is sort of metallic. It will hold and trap heat for you, okay? Whereas the baking paper doesn't do that. Plus, it's hard to kind of get the baking paper to sit around, because what you're trying to do is, if you put a foil over the brownie, you are sort of setting a barrier between the heat source and the brownie. But you're not you're slowing things down, but you're not interfering with the heat, because the foil will warm up when it's in contact with the heat, and it will be producing another form of heat that will spread over the brownie. So what you've done is you've slowed down, or you've blocked the direct access of the heat that is essentially burning your brownie by trying to filter the heat. And because you're using, if you use a foil, it will spread more evenly over your batter. By so doing, your brownie can cook without burning. Do you see what I'm saying? But you don't have that, but you still have to do something. So if you have parchment paper, right, don't just place it on it, right? What you want to do is seal the brownie pan. So if you can, the thing with parchment paper is it's hard to kind of seal it. So if you can't seal it, another option is to make sure that, let me just waste my parchment paper for this course. What you can do is, when you so let's say this is my brownie pan. Brownie is burning. If I had a foil, this is what it would look like. You put this on it. You cover it. That's it. You're done. Okay? Look at how difficult it will be to do that with this one. It's going to be hard. There's no way it will hold itself. So if you want to put it on the pan, what you have to do is ensure it has lips so that it can sit over the pan. Like you push it in and then there is enough sitting on it. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay, so go do that. Let's see, right? And then let it bake at the 160 for, at this point, give it another 20 minutes when you do that, and slow the heat down. Now, it won't bake quickly, but brownies are forgiving. It will slow down the burn and it will take time to bake, but you will have yourself some brownie to eat. Okay, hope that helps. Where are you joining us from? And where did you source this recipe that has turned out to be so problematic for you, lovely? Oh, Hungary. Oh, okay. Great to have you. Well, somewhere out of TikTok, right? So what do you mean? Did you find me on TikTok? Did you find us on TikTok? I don't know. Is that why? Do you mean you found us from TikTok? But anyway, it's great to have you. Okay, you're not Hungarian, but you're in Hungary. That is fine. We don't mind. You're still welcome nonetheless. It's fine. So you went sourcing recipes and now you can see that the recipe is giving you problems, love. It's okay. I was on YouTube and I found you here. Oh, thank you. Oh, well, Aisha, I've had a great day. Thank you, lovely. And you? I hope you've had a good day too. You know what? I left here and my evening developed into business because I'm always busy doing something. Whether I am doing something productive, that's the question. And I was also caught with having to think about this whole process. So yeah, you're welcome. Actually, I'm now invested, Praful. I want to know how that works out for you. Whatever happens, if it works out for you, come back and tell us. If you stay and it finishes baking, let us know, because I'm sure we will be gone before this all happens. But whilst you're here, you can join the group. You know, we're friendly. You're welcome. And if I can see 14 people in the chat. If you're in the chat, do consider liking the video, because I've been here twice today. Okay, I've been here. I do this for you, lovelies. I do. I love bacon, but I do this for you. So yeah, come on, like the video, tell a friend to tell a friend. Whoever likes bacon, you're welcome. And you see, I can solve your baking problems in real time. If you're having baking problems, come and talk to me. Okay. Oh, Aisha had a chantilly berry cake and some pasta with mine. Did you get the K-mix, honey? Now I feel like auntie. Now I feel like the auntie I am supposed to be. Auntie. Oh my goodness. Are you enjoying the use of that mixer? I love a K-mix. When I finally end up getting a partnership with Kenwood, you will hear me. Like, I've been out here supporting Kenwood forever. Okay. All right. How much did you pick it up for? £199? Oh, remember when you asked me about the Kenwood, I was out here literally giving you a lengthy lecture. Like, Gladys, why? Why, honey? But why? Why? Okay. Oh, so you did watch the review. Good afternoon, Chantilly P. Chantilly, that French man in my house has had me pronouncing your name slightly different in my head. Chantilly. How are you, my lovely? Are you having a good day? I know you were here with us in the morning. Well, in the morning as in your morning. I know it was still afternoon for us, but yes, how are you, my dear? We're back with our cake. Thankfully, I'm not eating any cake, and I really mean it. I do. I'm not eating any cake, so you can stay around, darling. Okay. Oh my goodness, Aisha, you got a 50% off from £470 to £244 and a flexi-beater. Where did you shop for that? Because 244, the Kenwood. Oh, I don't have access to my third screen because I'm like, oh, last one in stock. Where did you, which outlet? Because if you're checked on AO.com, okay, you know what? If you got it from Kenwood.com, don't forget to register the warranty, okay? Don't forget. Because if you get it from the Kenwood website, you get a few more perks with it. But if you get it, oh, so you had it for 244 with a free flexi-beater. You know what? They literally sold you the flexi-beater, but let me not ruin it for you, okay? It's still fine because the flexi-beater on its own still costs a little over £40, I think. And the mixer itself costs about £199 on secondary outlets like AO.com and other places but Kenwood. But yes, if you get it directly from Kenwood, it's I think £10 to £20 extra more, but that's because you're buying from the manufacturer. So that is neither here nor there. Still a great price for you. I want to scream. Ask me why I want to scream. Our friend Praful, who is in Hungary, came in with a baking query real time. Her cake, his brownie wasn't baking. Well, the outside was burning. The heat was too high. And he's like, help. And we were able to help in real time. And he's come back to say the inside of his brownie has cooked. Praful, I'm sorry. I never asked. What's your pronoun? Stupid question to ask. But I don't want to misgender you. Stupid question. Is it why? Like, no, I am a he. Oh Lord. Okay, thank you. Why am I so excited, Pratful? You are so welcome. Genuinely so happy right now. You know what? We are genuinely happy for you, darling. You know what? We are here doing it for you. We're here trying to help you. You got a baking problem, get in the chat and come tell us. We love it. We want you to have great results, and we love it when it happens in real time. Okay, so we are really grateful for you. We are so happy for you. Now you go tell your friend to say there's some weirdo out here in these streets who loves cake. You are so sweet, auntie. Helped me so much, and I learned a bunch about baking already in such a short time. You know what? We are grateful to have you, your time and your attention, and for all the support you guys give me over here. So yeah, Maham. Hello there. You're welcome. Great to have you. Right. So remember when I checked in the chat nearly an hour ago, I was like, oh, one last question. Go ahead, darling. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. When I checked in, I was like, oh, the people in my house are asleep. I'm going to be quick. Clearly, I wasn't that quick, is it? It's running into a... Do I take it out of the... Okay, so Praful is asking, do I take it out of the tray straight away or wait? No, you wait. A brownie has to wait. Essentially, pick it from the tray, get a knife. Get a sharper knife, but this is a bread knife. I'm using it for demonstration. And then the pan, the side of the pan, run the knife through it to kind of ease the cake out a little bit. I'm saying cake brownie out, because you need to let the... How did you line your tin? Did you put grease-proof paper? If you put grease-proof paper, you shouldn't do what I'm saying. But if you didn't, you need to kind of like... use the knife to kind of move it out a little bit. So did you use grease-proof paper? Oh, you put grease-proof paper, then yeah, leave it to set. But you know what? A quicker way is to dump it, leave it in the fridge. The fridge will cool it down quicker for you. I know when you bake a brownie and the smell is wafting around your house and you have to sit and watch that thing cool down, it's like it's a forever journey from Egypt to the wilderness. It's a long way to go, but if you do, it will be worth it. Okay, so it will be fudgy and that will be fine. Aisha over here. Aisha, I can see autocorrect has had you on chokehold, okay? Getting you typing wrong stuff over there. I already ate a small bit on the top. Is it nice? Tell us how it tastes for you, because we're here to help you and we're here for it, okay? I have just received notification from vidIQ. It's a software, an analytics software for my YouTube, and I've just been notified that I have just uploaded my 800th video. I suppose that will be on this live. 800 videos later. You know how much YouTube has paid me so far? 100, I think somewhere around 140 pounds. Yeah, that's how much all this work is worth to them buggers, okay? But I'm not complaining. It's just a funny thing to say, okay? Here are some advice. Always err on the side of slightly under baking your brownie. Yep. And leaving it to set so it's extra fudgy. She's right. Listen to Aisha, our aka unknown. Okay, listen to Aisha. Praful says, truthfully, it's a 7 out of 10. I'll improve more on the next, but it's cooked fine. I should do that next time. Yep, Praful, you know what? You always learn with the new experience. Even me, 10 years in baking, I only found out today what overmixing your batter looks like. And here's what it looks like. It doesn't look great. And yeah. So I jumped on here this evening to talk about the overbeaten batter that has yielded an unevenly textured cake, dry looking, a little bit crusty. There is dense patches on the side. The cake itself is crumbly a little bit. It is not as dense as I expected it to be, but that is set in personal opinion. But on observation, it's a little bit crusty, dry, dense, crumbly, still good to eat. I won't say great, okay? There are a few influences to why we have this. Is it a bad recipe? If you made this mistake and you're baking for family, should you throw the cake away? No. Just chop it up and let people just have it dry with a cup of tea. So it will make for a scone-like. So the texture of this is a little less like a scone, if you like. If you know a scone, the English scone, the outside is crusty and then you go on the inside and it's a little more like moist and nice. Something like a scone, but a little sweeter than a scone over here. So that is just like that. Thank you. You see, you people are just like amazing. So if you made, so here, okay. So let's turn some lemons into lemonade. So the basic question we were trying to answer was, what does it look like? Oh, so for those of you who are just joining in, okay, let me just clarify where we are. This is not a mistake I made, okay? I intentionally made this mistake for experimental purposes, okay? You know, when you're told, don't overmix your batter, don't overmix your... I'm like, let's overmix the batter and see what it looks like. And now we know what it looks like. We made the video earlier where we undertook the experiment. This live is just to see what overmixed batter cake looks like when it is cool. Okay, I was surprised when we got it out earlier and it was warm. We cut into it, we talked about it. This live focuses on when the cake is settled. Let's observe and analyze the crumb and what it looks like. Like I said, I'll compile notes on this subject matter probably in a podcast style, because then I need to sit and sort of write those out properly and then present it in the audio style so that you are better informed. But having done that, okay, if you made, so we've answered a question on, should you go and overmix your cake batter? No, don't overmix your, err on the side of caution and mix your batter right, okay? However, if say the batter calls for hand mixing, okay, and you hand mix it and you're too cautious, maybe don't be, because we beat this batter for 4 minutes with a hand mixer. The rotation was high speed, it was going, and here we are. We still have a fairly dense cake, but it's still cake-like. I thought it would lose its cake-like structure and end up being super doughy, and that's not what we have here. But this is not true for all cakes and recipes. Bear that in mind. This is just one recipe, one method, and a few influencing factors have contributed to this result, which is that we have low levels of liquids here. We have fat that is relative to the amount of gluten flour over there, because we have 160 grams of butter. That is still relatively more in proportion to the flour. I think we had about 225 grams of flour, if my memory, 225, 230. So if we compare 230 to 160, that was about, give or take, about 80 to 90 grams of flour difference here, which means the fat content was relatively proportional. It's not equal, but it's still relatively proportional to the amount of flour we're using here, which means the amount of fat we have is going to interfere with the gluten formation, which means that even though we've ended up with a denser bake, okay, it still feels like cake because of some of the factors that will influence the development of gluten. Okay, but like I said, that is like digging into the weeds and the science of baking. Let's just leave that alone. I'll compile notes on it. You will see it on the channel in the coming weeks. That said, I was talking about Maham is giving us tips on what to do. If you ended up accidentally overmixing your cake, should you throw it away? No, make dessert out of it. You can use this for a trifle, okay? You kind of break it into pieces, put it in a bowl, put some nice cream over it, and then layer it with fruits and liqueur. It will be amazing. If you don't want to do that, you can soak it in milk and cream and make milk cake out of it. Okay, so you can make different desserts of it. So if you have an overbeaten batter that develops into a dense, and the key word here is dense, not tough, because tough in the description of gluten structure and baking is different. Tough is bread-like. This is not bread-like. This is more like a pound cake. I'm not mad about it. Okay, so see, cake pops, trifle, milk cake dessert. What else can we do with that? Well, you can be me and just squish it together and make hyper realistic cakes from it, like this bagger here. It's a cake. Okay. It's a cake. Yeah, it's a cake. It's hard now. Look at it. It's hard, but it's a cake. And then I think I'm gonna, people, I have a confession. I think I'm gonna cut into my cakes now. I think I'm gonna cut into it, because why do I still have the cake? Yeah, why do I still have them? I'm holding them. Yeah, Maham. I know. I'm special. I'm kidding. Okay. Oh, I'm tired. People, I think we've done what we need to do today. Let me just go home now. Okay, let me just go home. And you know what my home is? I want to sit in my lounge and just binge. No, actually, I don't think the last few days I have binged on anything but my Bible study notes, which is kind of exciting for me now, because now I'm suddenly beginning to enjoy my Bible study notes, and that looks great. Yeah. Oh, Maham, haven't you been here since we made the burger cake and the flour cake? That's the burger. That's the banana. And that was the flour cake. This has been sitting here for nearly a month or so. I better let it go now. Okay? So, oh no, you just joined. Okay. I think I was confusing you with another Maham. We do have a Maham from Dubai who joined us, who joins us periodically. So yeah, that's why I'm talking as if I know you, honey. I am sorry. You're welcome. Lovely to meet you. Okay? Thank you for joining us today. Look at Amazon trying to go and take money. What is wrong with these people? Okay, so it's you, Maham. I was a little confused because you said I just joined. I interpreted it as you are new. Okay, so it's you. Okay, darling, you're welcome. Great to have you. Okay. Oh, you haven't seen them lately. You've been a little busy. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, darling. You know what? I know their lives are not very convenient for everyday working people. That is not to say you, those who join in regularly, are lazy people. No, I'm kidding. You know what their lives are. They are always available for you to come back. I know the playback experience is not the same as if you're sitting in the live. But you know what? We just want you to have fun whenever you feel like. So don't feel guilty. Okay? We do. Oh, dear. Aisha, you lost 2 books from your school library. That's not good. You'll be okay, though. You haven't killed nobody. It's 2 a.m. in Dubai, honey. Well, it's a minute past 10 here in the UK. I need to go and sleep now, okay? I need to get off. Oh, okay. Aisha, breathe. what happens? What will happen? Let's sort of talk through this. You lost a library book. What's the worst that will happen? What's the consequences for losing a library book? You're charged for it, as in you're charged some money for it. What is the panicking about? Because what's the consequence? How much do you have to pay for them, if you don't mind me asking? I have pain in my belly, so it's making me like, why do I feel so awkward standing? £30. Do you have £30? I know. It's a lot of money for you, okay? But it's relative to the panic you're feeling. So if you were told to give up £30 to kind of not panic, could you do that? Oh, shoot. So you saved up £30 for your mom's birthday. What are you doing for your mom? I know you were talking to Cocktail about that. I haven't caught up on the chat. I know you said you want to do something special for your mom. Okay, so what are you doing for mom? Okay, darling. Breathe, breathe. Aisha, breathe. If you're anxious, breathe for a minute, because talking through it should help you. I'm gonna get her some gifts and make her chicken tikka and lemon raspberry cake and a movie night. So the £30 was supposed to go for ingredients. Okay, but when you're charged, when you say the library book is missing and they charge you, they don't expect you to pay immediately, do they? Let's talk through this, Aisha. Let's solve this. If you go to the library and you're like, the book is missing, they are not going to let you pay immediately, is it? So here's what you do. When is mom's birthday? Because we need to know mom's birthday, and then you can go and inquire that if you've lost 2 library books, what mom's birthday is next Friday, so it's a week from now, right? And when do you have to return the library books? If you're just joining us, we are trying to solve a problem in the chat, okay? Somebody's feeling a little bit anxious about a mistake they've made. Neither here nor there, but we're trying to help them feel settled, because you needed to return them in January and you hadn't, okay? It's March now, okay? So what has happened that has made you feel that you are thinking about your library book today? What happened? Did you receive notification? Did you receive an email asking you to bring the book back? What happened right now? Why did the library book become a subject to you? Okay, so you got an email. Okay, so there's a prompt that bring the books and you're like, okay. Do you really think you lost the books or you've misplaced them? I think Tabitha, your insight is really not a bad thing at all. But I don't think it's about the book. It's about how she's feeling. So we're trying to problem solve so that she can tangibly see a way out of this. One of them was stolen in the changing room. Okay, so one is missing. And what happened to the other one? Okay, so Tabitha says she did the same thing once and got sent to collections. I wasn't allowed to check our books. A stolen book shouldn't be your fault, but I understand the library making you pay for it also. Okay, so she says, I wish I could stay, but I have to go now. It's okay, no problem. I hope you feel better and you fix this library book issue, okay? I hope you have a good night too and enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, my dear. Come back when you can. All the best, okay? And yeah, Tabitha, bye. Right? So that was yeah, that was Aisha and her library book. But Aisha is a baker, a young girl, and yeah, so great. You sleep well too and look after yourself, my lovely. Okay, please do take time to look after yourself. It's important, and all the best. Hopefully we'll see you back here soon. But otherwise, people, we have finished our bake. That we came back. What is our verdict for breaking the baking rules? Better stick to baking rules, but there's more to this. And I'll be back to discussing this some more with you sometime. In the meantime, we have another 5 minutes to ask me a question before we go. Tabitha, how's your day been? Dolly, darling, I'm back here. Dolly, we have 5 minutes. Wherever you've been, I know you're working. How are you, my love? Okay, great to have you back. You missed us in the afternoon. Yeah, okay, so for your sake, let's come today. You know, when you hear baking channels, baking cakes, they're like, don't overmix your butter, just fold it in and let the flour mix together and then go and bake. We decided to break the baking rules and overmix our batter just for experiment purposes, and we found some really fascinating results. So part of that is because after doing that in the earlier live, which is up there, we came back this evening to see the crumb when it's more settled, and the results are fascinating. I am pleasantly surprised by the results. So go catch up on the immediate video after this one, and yeah, more to talk about baking. Tabitha says she's had a good it's been good. It's 3:09. Yeah, it's 10:10 here. Yeah, and it's almost time to get my kid for my kid to get home from school. You went shopping. You were with mom earlier today. It's been now lovely. Now you need a nap. Now you're showing your age for wanting to need a nap. Yeah, I think for me, mostly about if I wasn't on a live by 2 p.m. if I'm editing, on days I'm editing, I just want to lay down. I want to lay down and sleep, people. I just want to sleep. But that's neither here nor there, okay? So, yeah, I'm glad you had a good day. And, yeah, I'm closing out shortly. So, darling, you can go have a nap before you go get the kitty. And then it won't be long. It will be, why? I'm looking and thinking, why is my skin very dry? Because it's cold outside, honey. Who am I talking to? Me. Okay. Dolly, how was your day? Dolly lives in, did you say you lived in, is it a retirement village or something you said? I'm like, look at this posh cow. No, I'm kidding, right? If you don't have a Lidl or Aldi around you, you are telling me something without telling me something. Okay? But otherwise, we have a few minutes to go. And I'm like, okay, people, you know what? We've done our baking. We've got the results. We've done great things today. I'm so happy. Can you people know, can you tell that I can dance? I can dance like a cockroach. Okay? No, I can't dance. It's a pensioner. Dolly, what are you doing in a pensioner's village? You're not living in eternal pension, is it? That must be some good life, though. Dolly, I literally explained what we did earlier, okay? Not this one, okay? I explained it for you earlier, just when you came in. We just overbeat our cake batter. We just overmixed our cake batter for experiment, just to see what is. Lollipop, 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 lollipop land, lollipop land, lollipop. Look at me, excited about polo. I spent all day going, where's the lollipop? Where's the lollipop? Where's the lollipop? So when we got off the live, I literally left a comment. I'm like, we missed you. Great. Well, yeah, you missed, yeah, okay, yeah, I kept asking after you. So yeah, we got it. So anyway, we're here. You feel so welcome. You know you always are, honey. Because today I kind of felt like I was missing the freak and frack chatter in the chat room, especially between you, Tapeta, and Corkytail. And Corkytail was here this evening, but she had internet problems and had to go. I know. You know what, Lollipop? Some days you just have to go and live life, okay? Like I was living on Sunday. It's okay. But we had such a good time. We have now, oh, Lollipop, this is what you should know. We have made Sandra a fixture here. So those of you who know Sandra, if you meet Sandra, just tell Sandra to behave, okay? And Aunt Jackie was in the chat with us. Jackie, is it Matthias? Jackie M, I call her. Aunt Jackie, she was here today. And it was lovely. We spoke about, it was such random things we were doing, but the goal today was to overmix our cake batter and see how the gluten develops. And we had such a good time.